You wake up, ready to take charge of your life. You've set ambitious goals: fitness, career, discipline. Today is the day you finally make it happen. But then, reality sets in. Emails flood your inbox, your to-do list grows. The motivation that felt unstoppable this morning? Gone. And by evening, you're left wondering why it always plays out this way. This isn't just you, it's the trap of goal setting without a system. Here's the harsh truth: goals don't change your life, systems do. The most successful people? They don't obsess over results. They don't rely on motivation. They design systems that make success automatic. Take the Stoics. They didn't hope for discipline. They built it into their daily routines. They didn't chase fleeting motivation. They crafted habits that removed the need for willpower. And that's exactly what you're about to learn. In this video, we'll break down why goals fail, why small actions create unstoppable momentum, and how to build a system that guarantees results. You'll discover the habit stacking strategy used by high performers and the energy action grid that eliminates procrastination. By the end, you won't just understand the power of systems, you'll have a blueprint to execute it. But first, tell me, what's the one goal you've struggled to stay consistent with? Drop it in the comments. I read every response. 1. The cult of goals. Why we keep failing. Most people believe success is about setting the right goals. They write them down, visualize the outcome, and wait for motivation to push them forward. But the reality is different. Goals create an illusion, the belief that happiness and fulfillment exist somewhere in the future, always just out of reach. The problem with goal setting is that it fosters an all-or-nothing mentality. You either achieve it and feel a fleeting moment of satisfaction, or you fall short and feel like a failure. If success is tied to reaching a goal, then every step along the way feels like a state of lack. You aren't successful yet. You aren't happy yet. You haven't arrived. This mindset makes progress feel like a constant struggle. Even when you succeed, the feeling is temporary. You hit the target, but the moment is brief. A new goal emerges. The chase begins again. The result? A life spent running, never satisfied, always searching for the next milestone. Stoicism warns against attaching self-worth to external outcomes. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Goals are external. They are shaped by changing circumstances. If you rely on them for motivation, you become vulnerable to their instability. A system, on the other hand, keeps you moving forward, regardless of the outcome. A man once spent a decade building his business, believing that once he hit a certain income level, he would finally feel accomplished. The day arrived. The money was in his account. But instead of fulfillment, he felt emptiness. His mind had already moved to the next milestone, the next impossible target. He had spent 10 years climbing, only to realize there was no summit, just another peak in the distance. Contrast this with a craftsman who focuses on mastering his skill. He doesn't obsess over how many clients he lands or whether he becomes famous. He simply works on his craft every day. Improvement is his goal. He enjoys the process itself, not just the rewards that may come. A year later, his reputation grows. Clients seek him out. Success follows, not because he chased it, but because he built a system where success became inevitable. Imagine a man standing at the shore, trying to control the tide. He tells himself that he must make the waves stop and that his peace depends on stillness. But the tide doesn't obey him. No matter how much effort he exerts, the waves continue. Frustrated and exhausted, he gives up. But then another man appears. He doesn't try to control the tide. Instead, he learns how to move with it. He adapts, swims, and lets the current carry him forward. One fights against forces beyond his control. The other aligns himself with them. Most people approach life like the first man. They try to control outcomes. They believe that reaching a specific point will bring them peace. But peace isn't found in outcomes. It's found in the ability to adapt, to move with the current, rather than against it. This is the power of a system. It doesn't depend on the tides. It keeps you moving, no matter what. A Stoic does not say, I will be successful one day. He says, I will master my actions today. Instead of chasing an ideal future, he builds a present where success is a natural byproduct. There is no need to place your happiness in a finish line that moves every time you get closer. If you are always waiting for something in the future to validate your progress, you will never feel at peace. This is why a system matters. It removes the burden of arrival. It shifts your focus from where you want to be to how you are improving right now. A man who sets a goal to write a book may never finish. He might feel overwhelmed by the sheer size of the task, discouraged when progress is slow, or frustrated if his writing isn't perfect. But a man who commits to writing 200 words every day, he will finish without even realizing it. The system carries him forward. Success isn't about hitting the target, it's about perfecting the shot. The archer who fixates on the bullseye will often miss because he is too tense and too focused on the result. But the archer who focuses on his form, his breath, his rhythm, he will hit the target as a byproduct of his process. The solution is simple. Stop asking, "What goal should I set?" Start asking, "What system will make success inevitable?" When the system is right, the results take care of themselves. 2. Why goals kill motivation and what works instead. A new goal always feels exciting. The moment you decide to transform your life, your brain rewards you with a surge of dopamine, the chemical of anticipation. You feel powerful, certain. This time, things will be different. Then reality sets in. The motivation that burned so brightly begins to fade. The first obstacle appears, and suddenly the path seems harder than expected. One missed day turns into 2. The vision that once felt so clear starts to feel distant. Frustration creeps in. You wonder if you ever really had what it takes. Most people think failure happens because they weren't disciplined enough. They blame themselves for not staying motivated. But the real problem isn't them. It's the strategy. Goals rely on an unstable fuel source, emotion. When you feel inspired, you take action. But when that emotion disappears, so does your progress. A system, on the other hand, removes emotion from the equation. It doesn't ask you to be motivated. It simply asks you to show up. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. They knew that discipline wasn't about pushing yourself harder. It was about eliminating the need to push at all. Epictetus taught that external desires create suffering. The more you crave a specific outcome, the more control it has over you. If your success depends on motivation, then failure is inevitable because motivation is never permanent. Imagine someone who wants to become stronger. He sets a goal, lift twice his body weight within 6 months. At first he's consistent, but then progress slows. He misses a session. Doubt enters his mind. Suddenly, the goal that once fueled him now feels like a reminder of his shortcomings. Compare this to someone who doesn't set a goal at all. He simply commits to training every other day, regardless of how he feels. He tracks his workouts, not his results. He focuses on form, not numbers. He shows up whether he wants to or not. 6 months later, one man is discouraged, seeing how far he still has to go. The other, he's stronger than ever, not because he chased a target, but because he built a system that made progress inevitable. This is the difference between chasing results and mastering the process. Most people try to force themselves toward an outcome, but the Stoics knew that control is an illusion. You don't control when success arrives. You only control the actions you take every day. A fire doesn't burn because it wants to. It burns because the conditions allow it. Fuel, oxygen, heat. Remove one and the fire dies. Success works the same way. It isn't a question of desire, it's a question of structure. Imagine a river carving through rock. It doesn't force its way forward. It doesn't rely on motivation. It flows because the path allows it to. It moves forward because there is no other option. A goal asks, how do I force myself to do this? A system asks, how do I make it impossible not to? If you need willpower to take action, your system is broken. The Stoics didn't rely on feeling inspired to train their minds. They built daily habits that made discipline second nature. Marcus Aurelius didn't write in his journal because he felt like it. He wrote because reflection was part of his system. Seneca didn't practice voluntary discomfort because it was easy. He did it because it hardened his mind before hardship arrived. The world is unpredictable. Motivation is fleeting, but a system is reliable. It removes the guesswork, the hesitation, the constant need to force yourself into action. So the question isn't, How do I stay motivated? It's what system will carry me forward when motivation disappears? 3. The power of small actions, but massive results. A mountain is not formed in a day. It is the result of countless grains of sand pressed together over time. A river does not carve through rock in a single night. It moves drop by drop until the stone surrenders to its persistence. No single effort seems significant, but the repetition, the consistency, the slow accumulation, that is what creates unstoppable power. Most people misunderstand change. They wait for a moment of transformation, believing that real progress must be dramatic. They think that in order to succeed, they need to make big moves, take big risks, and see big results. And if they can't do that, they do nothing. But the Stoics knew better. They understood that change is not an event, it is a process. Epictetus once said, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig." If you tell me you desire a fig, I tell you that it takes time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen. This is the power of small actions, the quiet, unremarkable things you do every day. The ones that seem too small to matter are the very things that shape your life. The writer who commits to a single sentence a day will finish a book faster than the one who waits for the perfect time to write. The person who exercises for 5 minutes a day will be healthier than the one who starts an intense program and quits after 2 weeks. A man stands at the bottom of a staircase. He looks up. The top is far, too far. He tells himself, "It's too much. I can't do it." So he doesn't move. Another man arrives. He doesn't look at the top. He looks at the first step. He takes it. Then another. He doesn't worry about how far he has to go. He just keeps moving. A month later, one man is still at the bottom, overwhelmed. The other is halfway up, simply because he started. Most failures happen because people expect progress to be immediate. They want results now. When they don't see them, they get discouraged. But small actions, repeated over time, create momentum. A habit is formed, a system is built, and once momentum exists, it does the work for you. The Stoics trained their minds through daily practice, not sudden inspiration. They didn't wait to feel disciplined. They became disciplined by showing up every day. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal not because he had profound insights waiting to be recorded, but because he knew that wisdom comes through repetition. Seneca advised that progress should be measured in consistent action, not dramatic breakthroughs. He understood that the person who improves just 1% each day will, over time, reach a level of mastery far beyond the one who relies on bursts of effort. A tree does not grow tall because it stretches upward once a year. It grows because each day it absorbs sunlight, water, and nutrients. The process is invisible, but eventually it becomes undeniable. Most people never reach their potential because they underestimate the power of compounding effort. They believe a small action today is meaningless, but every book ever written began with a single word. Every strong body was once weak, but strengthened through daily effort. Every successful career was built through small, repetitive skills, honed over time. This is why a system is more powerful than a goal. A goal asks you to arrive. A system ensures you are always moving forward. There is no need to force massive change. No need to wait for the right conditions. If you can write one sentence today, you are a writer. If you can move for 5 minutes, you are building strength. If you can take one small step, you are already on your way. The question isn't, how do I achieve my goal? The question is, what small action can I take today that makes success inevitable? 4. Build systems, not willpower. A river does not force itself to flow. It moves because gravity pulls it forward, because the path has been carved, because it has no choice but to keep going. Success should work the same way, not through willpower, not through bursts of energy, but through a system that makes progress inevitable. Most people rely on discipline. They believe that if they just try harder, push themselves more, and resist temptation better, they will win. But willpower is unreliable. Some days you feel strong, some days you don't. And if your success depends on waking up motivated, you are building on unstable ground. Every day you make hundreds of small decisions. What to eat, when to work out, whether to start your project or put it off until tomorrow. Each choice drains your mental energy. By the afternoon, you're tired, distracted, and more likely to take the easy route. This is why people procrastinate, not because they are lazy, but because their mental energy is depleted. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius didn't hope he would have the discipline to rule Rome. He structured his days so that discipline became automatic. Seneca didn't trust himself to always make the right choices. He designed his life so the right choices were the easiest ones to make. A man in an office once struggled with inconsistency. Some days he worked for hours, focused and productive. On other days he barely got anything done. He blamed himself. He thought he lacked motivation. But then he noticed something. On his most productive days, he had prepared the night before. His desk was clean, his priorities were clear, there was no friction, so he built a system. Before leaving work, he wrote down his most important tasks for the next day. He removed distractions, no open tabs, no unread emails. He set up his workspace so that when he sat down, there was nothing left to decide, only work to be done. He stopped relying on inspiration. He built a process where progress became automatic. Imagine two people trying to get fit. One wakes up each morning and decides whether or not to work out. If he feels tired, he skips it. If his schedule is full, he postpones. He fights with himself every single day. The other doesn't decide. His gym clothes are already laid out. His workout is pre-planned. His environment makes it easier to exercise than to skip. He doesn't wake up debating what to do. He follows the system he built. One relies on willpower. The other removes the need for it. A system ensures that success is the default, not the struggle. The mind is weak under pressure. If you leave choices up to the moment, you will often choose the easiest path. The Stoics taught that preparation is everything. Don't wait to decide when you are tired, distracted, or stressed. Decide before the moment arrives. A soldier does not prepare for battle on the day of the fight. He trains when there is no threat, so when the time comes, his actions are automatic. A disciplined mind is not one that fights temptation. It is one that avoids needing to fight at all. Most people assume that successful individuals are simply more disciplined. But the truth is, they just have better systems. They remove decision fatigue. They eliminate obstacles. They create an environment where progress is inevitable. The question is not, do I have enough willpower? The question is, how do I make success unavoidable? 5. The 80-20 rule of energy allocation. A sculptor does not strike the marble at random. Every movement is intentional, removing just enough stone to reveal the masterpiece within. He does not waste time chiseling unimportant details, nor does he hammer away at the wrong angles. He knows that a few precise actions will shape the entire sculpture. Most people, however, live as if they are hacking at stone blindly. They spend hours on emails that lead nowhere, meetings that could have been avoided, and distractions that consume their energy. They believe working harder means achieving more. But work is not about effort, it is about effectiveness. The 80-20 rule, or the Pareto principle, reveals a truth most overlook. 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. A small fraction of what you do determines the majority of your success. But instead of identifying that critical 20%, most people spread themselves thin, exhausting themselves on tasks that bring little to no progress. A Stoic does not live this way. Seneca warned, life is long if you know how to use it. But how many waste years on trivialities, leaving what truly matters undone? The wise do not try to do everything. They focus only on what moves them forward. A man at work once found himself drowning in busyness. He answered emails immediately, attended every meeting, and took on every project. He was always exhausted, yet he felt like he was achieving nothing. One day, a mentor gave him simple advice. Not all tasks are equal. Find the few that create the biggest impact. Ignore the rest. So he changed his approach. He stopped responding instantly to every request. He declined meetings without clear objectives. He spent his time only on the projects that would lead to real results. Within months, his productivity soared, but his stress vanished. He was doing less, but achieving more. Imagine you are climbing a mountain. Your backpack is heavy, filled with things you thought you needed. The weight slows you down. The climb is exhausting. But then you stop. You empty the bag, keeping only the essentials. Suddenly, you move faster. The peak is no longer unreachable. Life is the same. Most people carry too much: pointless arguments, unnecessary obligations, meaningless distractions. They mistake motion for progress. They wonder why they are tired, but they never stop to ask, is this even necessary? A Stoic travels light. He does not seek validation from others, nor does he spend time worrying about what he cannot control. He directs his energy only toward what truly matters. A student doesn't need to memorize an entire textbook. If he focuses on the 20% of concepts that form the foundation, he will understand 80% of the subject. A professional does not need to work 12-hour days. If he prioritizes the most valuable tasks, he will accomplish more in half the time. A person trying to get healthy doesn't need a perfect diet and a complex gym routine. Fixing just a few core habits, sleep, nutrition, and movement, creates the majority of results. Most people fail not because they are unwilling to work hard, but because they waste energy on things that don't matter. The Stoics understood that success is not about doing more, it is about doing less, better. 6. Momentum engineering. Making success automatic. A massive stone sits still, heavy, unmoving. It takes enormous effort to push it forward, but once it rolls, something shifts. The resistance fades. The weight no longer fights against movement. Instead, it carries itself forward. This is how momentum works. The hardest part of any task is the beginning. The mind resists, the body hesitates, the brain finds excuses. But once you start, continuing is effortless. Most people fail, not because they are incapable, but because they never overcome this first barrier. They stand at the edge of action, staring into it, waiting for motivation to push them forward. But motivation is unreliable. If you wait for it, you'll stay exactly where you are. This is why the Stoics trained themselves to act without waiting for the perfect moment. Epictetus said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Not tomorrow, not later, now." John once struggled with procrastination. He had ambitious plans but never acted on them. He told himself he'd start exercising, reading, and working on his career. But every day he found a reason to delay. He told himself he needed the right time, the right conditions, the right energy. Months passed. Nothing changed. Then he learned a simple rule: just start for 2 minutes. No commitment, no pressure. Just take one step. So he tried it. Instead of saying, "I will work out today," he told himself, "I will do 1 push-up." Once he was on the floor, he did 10, then 20. Instead of saying, "I will read for an hour," he said, "I will read 1 paragraph." 1 paragraph turned into 5 pages. He realized that action was not the problem. Starting was. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius did not wait until he felt like leading. He woke up every morning and reminded himself, "At dawn, when you wake unwillingly, let this thought be in your mind: I am rising to do the work of a human being." This is where habit stacking becomes powerful. The brain works through association. It links actions together. If one habit is already part of your routine, attaching a new habit to it makes execution effortless. After pouring a morning coffee, write 3 sentences in a journal. After brushing your teeth, read 1 page of a book. After locking your door in the morning, take 3 deep breaths to prepare for the day. Soon, these actions become automatic. They do not require effort or decision-making. They happen because they are built into your existing structure. Imagine 2 people running a race. One stands still, waiting for the perfect moment to begin. The other starts walking, slowly at first, but step by step, momentum builds. Soon, he is running. Life works the same way. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. The moment you move, the movement continues. Most people think success requires motivation. The Stoics knew it required systems. The key is not to force discipline. The key is to remove friction. The question is not, how do I force myself to act? The question is, how do I make starting inevitable? 7. Turning difficult tasks into effortless action. A mountain seems impossible to climb when you stand at the bottom. The peak is too far. The path is steep. The mind resists. But if you stop staring at the top and focus only on the next step, something shifts. 1 step turns into 2, 2 into 10, and before you know, already climbing. This is how the action works. The hardest part is always the beginning. The brain prefers comfort, familiarity, and the path of least resistance. If something feels too big, it finds reasons to delay. This is why most people procrastinate, not because they are lazy, but because the task feels overwhelming. But action is momentum. If you can take one step, the next becomes easier. This is where the 2-minute rule becomes powerful. Instead of saying, I need to write a book, say, I will write one sentence. Instead of, I need to work out, say, I will put on my running shoes. Once you begin, stopping is harder than continuing. The mind plays tricks, it exaggerates effort. It convinces you that starting will be painful, that action requires massive energy. But in reality, the beginning is the hardest part. Once you start, the resistance disappears. The Stoics understood this well. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Most obstacles are not real. They exist only because we overthink them. This is why habit stacking is so powerful. Instead of relying on motivation, you connect new habits to existing ones. After making coffee, write 3 sentences in a journal. After brushing your teeth, read 1 page of a book. After putting on running shoes, take a 10-minute walk. This method removes hesitation. Instead of deciding to act, you simply follow a routine that already exists. Anna had big ambitions, learning a new language, getting fit, and writing daily. But every time she tried, she felt paralyzed. She would sit down to study, but get distracted. She would plan a workout, but never start. Days turned into weeks, and she remained stuck. One day, she changed her approach. Instead of forcing herself to complete a full task, she committed to just the first step. She told herself, I will open my language app and learn 1 word. She did, then another, and another. A 5-minute study session turned into 30. She applied the same to fitness. Instead of dreading a long workout, she told herself, I will do 1 squat. 1 turned into 5, then 10. The barrier wasn't effort, it was simply starting. Think of a row of dominoes. If you push the first one, the rest fall effortlessly. But if you never tap the first, nothing moves. Domino tasks work the same way. 1 small action triggers another, then another, until momentum takes over. A painter does not complete a masterpiece in 1 sitting. He starts with a single brushstroke. A builder does not construct a house in a day. He lays 1 brick. Marcus Aurelius did not wait until he felt like leading. He reminded himself every morning, at dawn, when you wake unwillingly, let this thought be in your mind. I am rising to do the work of a human being. The Stoics did not depend on willpower. They knew that discipline was not about forcing action, but about removing resistance. The key is not to fight procrastination. It is to eliminate the reason for it. If a task feels impossible, make it smaller. If a task feels overwhelming, focus only on the first step. The secret to overcoming resistance is not willpower. It is making action too easy to resist. Once movement begins, the mind follows. 8. Overcoming procrastination by managing energy. A car with a full tank can drive for hours. A car running on fumes, it won't even make it out of the driveway. The difference is not in the vehicle itself, but in the fuel that powers it. Procrastination works the same way. People think they put things off because they are lazy, unmotivated, or lack discipline. But often it has nothing to do with willpower and everything to do with energy allocation. When a task feels unclear, the brain naturally resists. It seeks certainty. It defaults to the easy, the comfortable, the familiar. This is why you can scroll endlessly on your phone but struggle to start a simple project. It is not because the project is impossible, but because the first step is unclear. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that action must be deliberate, that the mind seeks the path of least resistance, and that clarity is the antidote to inaction. Seneca wrote, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity." But how often do people wait for motivation instead of preparing themselves to act? The mind is a survival machine. It is wired to avoid pain, seek pleasure, and conserve energy. If a task feels overwhelming or vague, the mind classifies it as difficult and avoids it. Imagine 2 options in front of you. One is to start working on a report that has no structure, no clear deadline, and feels like it will take hours. The other is to check your phone for a quick dopamine hit. The choice is easy, not because social media is better, but because it is clear, immediate, and effortless. A Stoic, however, does not leave decisions to chance. He prepares the way forward so that effort is not wasted. The question is never, how do I force myself to focus? The real question is, how do I remove friction so that focus happens naturally? Picture a locked door. You try to push it open, but it won't move. You try harder, but it resists. Frustrated, you step back until you notice the key sitting right in front of you. You were never stuck. You just needed a better way in. This is how the action works. Most people procrastinate not because they lack the ability, but because they haven't structured their work in a way that invites effortless entry. A builder does not show up at a construction site and thinks, "Where do I begin?" He has a blueprint. A pilot does not get in the cockpit and wonders, "How do I fly?" He follows a checklist. Yet in daily life, people sit down to work without a plan, without knowing their priorities, and without setting up a clear starting point. Then they wonder why they feel lost. A Stoic does not operate this way. He understands that small decisions lead to great results, and the first decision must always be, what is the next clear action? Instead of relying on discipline, design your workflow to make action inevitable. This means list your tasks the night before, so when you wake up, there is no thinking, only execution. Define your first step. Instead of work on a project, write the first sentence. Instead of exercise, do one push-up. Pair actions with energy levels. Low energy tasks, like reviewing notes, should be done when you are tired, while deep work should happen when you are fresh. By doing this, you eliminate hesitation. You never sit down asking, "What should I do first?" because the answer is already there. Marcus Aurelius never wasted time waiting for motivation. He reminded himself daily, "You are rising to do the work of a human being. Not tomorrow, not later, now." A warrior does not sharpen his sword when the battle has begun. He prepares beforehand. A wise mind does not wait for the right moment. It creates the right moment. If you can make a decision before the moment of hesitation arrives, you will never have to fight procrastination again. The difference between those who succeed and those who struggle is rarely intelligence, talent, or luck. It is consistency. The ability to show up even when motivation fades. The discipline to take action even when it feels difficult. The wisdom to remove resistance rather than fight it. You have seen why goals fail. They create a cycle of highs and lows, excitement, then disappointment. You have learned why systems outperform goals, because they turn progress into something automatic. You have discovered the power of small actions, habit stacking, and momentum engineering. Now it is up to you. You do not need a perfect plan. You do not need to wait for motivation. You need to start. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Pick one small action, one habit to stack, one system to build, and then let it grow. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." The same applies to success. Stop debating when to begin. Stop waiting for the right moment. Just act. The first step will always feel small. That is how it should be. A river starts with a single drop. A great journey begins with one step. Your transformation is no different. Now, I want to hear from you. What small action will you take today? Share your story in the comments below. Let's build a mindset that creates results, not just once, but every day.